So we're here to talk about the 2021 State of the Industry and Salary Report webinar. It's quite a mouthful, but we also have a lot of data and research that we're going to share with you. I'm Ann Ting, Senior Vice President of Marketing here at Tatango, and I have Robin Fernandez, who's our Senior Director of Customer Success, who's joining me today. So this is the 9th year that we've been doing this annual kind of survey and research report. It's been fascinating to see the change and evolution of customer success. This year, we've had about 1,600 participants, which is amazing. I think a lot of people are remote, at home, online. And so, thank you everybody for probably those who are on the call today have participated too. So thanks for sending that. We'll be sharing the full report towards the end of this week and kind of sharing some of the insights on today. We've seen lots of people from all over the world, primarily the US, but even about over 100 people from Europe as well participating in the report. So a couple of the key findings, and I'll just kind of touch on each of these points because we're going to dive into a lot more detail about each one of these. So first of all, as we know, with the pandemic and everything last year, customer success has definitely continued to grow. But with that growth, businesses are really focusing on how do I scale? How do I make sure that I'm able to engage my customers appropriately and scale my business to address the growth that I'm seeing? Being able to grow, being able to see data has become even more important, making kind of data-driven decisions. So what we are seeing from a technology standpoint is people finding it very cumbersome and difficult when they have data and teams and communications happening across much different departments internally. Not people shifting their technology to really look for technologies that help bridge all those silos so that they can really provide a great external kind of holistic experience to their customers. This is especially true because we've seen customer success evolve from being really just the charter of the customer success team in an organization to working with more other parts of the organization. Now, in the last couple of years, really firmly becoming a strategic imperative for the business with increased collaboration all across the journey and all across the departments internally. I think the other thing is I would say that over the last year, the beginning of the pandemic, I think the focus has really been on protecting and retaining your customers. But as last year started unfolding into this year, there's a recognition and real focus on customer success as a growth driver, as really being a lead driver in the business. And you'll see that in some of the results on how much companies are now focusing on expansion and advocacy parts of the journey. And this is reflected in what we've seen in compensation and organizational structures changing. So enough about the key findings. Let's get straight into the details. I'm going to turn this over to Robin to start, and she will talk a little bit about kind of what she sees in customer success and what we're seeing from the data.
Great. Thank you so much, Anne. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. There is a steady growth in the number of companies investing in a CS organization. In the last year, the growth has been more significant. Companies are realizing they need to be more customer focused to drive business success. Over the last year, companies are investing more and are becoming more mature in the practice. CS focus is now more on customer value and outcomes and how those drive business value and revenue. This is leading to a breadth of teams and the challenge to scale. As part of the growth maturity of the CS teams, the need to add additional specialization to the organization becomes more important. Data is increasingly valuable. We know data is king, and interpreting it and translating it is a key focus. And with that, we see the addition of CS analysts to the CS organization. We're also seeing more technical products. So technical organizations need to add more expertise. So we're seeing more customer success engineers joining the fray. And we're also seeing with that increased focus on baseline retention and growth, renewal managers is growing as well. With the struggle to scale fast enough and some organizations needing to do more with less, the CSM's book of business has expanded with the largest growth in the 100 to 200 accounts per CSM bracket. This is also leading to the secondary challenge of being reactive versus proactive. There's a different behavior and engagement model when handling 15 strategic accounts versus 100 mid-market accounts. And I would say one of the recommendation is Tatango itself. We have a free product now, and we're seeing a lot of small businesses are understanding that they need to have CS to expand and to be successful. And so they're buying Tatango with a team of 2 or 3, and they somehow need to be able to handle this mass amount of customers that they have with this small team. And so, how do we use technology to help address these challenges? So, companies need to find a solution which is not a CRM or spreadsheet to enable their CS organizations. It's just not going to scale for them to stay in those Google Sheets. Companies with a CS platform are more proactive and the teams are working more efficiently and effectively. This is also helping them to work collaboratively instead of in silos. So now we're working together as a team towards the customer success and to the business success. We all have the information that we need. And we look forward, as we look forward into the rest of this year and into next year, we're going to see more growth in BI and product analytical tools. We are already seeing customers bringing data in from their BI tools today to enable them to automate the workflows. So they're doing the right things at the right time.
I think that one of the trends that we definitely seen around technology is in the past, customer success teams were using kind of other systems that may already have been in the company to try to kind of do their job. CRMs, as an example, or Excel spreadsheets. But you definitely see the trend, not just in this past year, but even over time, as the recognition that those systems are not enough to really do what the awesome work that customer success teams need to do, right? Have the data, see the visibility in real time, live and breathe the customer, their health, and definitely the kind of orchestrating the engagement that needs to happen.
So let's understand the three key areas as we look at scale. We have reactive, proactive, and predictive. Reactive, this is customer initiated. They're reaching out to you with an email, they're going to support, or maybe they're going to the knowledge base to get what they need. These are accounts that are not growing organically and most likely are not responding to you when you do get the chance to reach out to them. Proactive is we're reaching out to your customers. It's seeking out problems, using metrics to understand and solve problems before they realize that they have them. Driving adoption of key features to drive value and allowing them to take their business to the next step. Predictive, where we all want to be. This is applying data-driven insights to understand what customers are really looking for. This can transform the entire customer experience. Lorena, can you launch our poll on where we think our attendees are when they're looking at scale today? Are you reactive? Are you proactive? Or are you at the predictive area? And how did we do?
So we see that 58%, about 60% of our attendees say that they're still reactive and 40% around are proactive, which is actually much better than some of the folks that responded from our survey. Our survey results, about 75% of the respondents actually said that they felt that they were still in a very reactive mode of responding and engaging with their customers. I think what's more interesting, though, is you can kind of tease that apart and look at the demographics of the people who are, say that reactive versus those who are proactive. And this may be the case with a lot of the folks who are on the webinar today. But one of the key things to scale and to be proactive is being able to see the information about your customers, like what's happening with them, and understand ahead of time with those signals that help contribute to triggering any activities that need to happen for engagement. And so what we see is that people who have technology, particularly customer success platforms in place, actually responded and said that they felt they were in a more proactive state of engaging with their customers compared to those that were firmly without a customer success platform or technology. Even more so, I think what I found very interesting were not just those who had technology, but actually who ahead of last year already had systems and processes in place. So they were already trying to engage in a one-to-many approach. You see here the folks who had one CSM dealing with 5,000 plus customers. When you're in that mode of operating engagement, you had to think about ways to automate a lot of your what you're doing to reach out to customers. And so people who had that in place through last year, they were able to scale much more effectively for their growth and saw their engagement being even closer to more the proactive mode of reaching out. I think this is very telling because oftentimes we feel that from a customer experience standpoint, that using automation, using technology to handle such a mass volume may be a downgrade in experience. And clearly the data tells us that that's not. The other key thing here is looking at kind of how customer success has become such an imperative strategy for the company. As I mentioned in the beginning, in the past, customer success was really just the charter of the customer success team. And now it's firmly a company-wide initiative. In that, we've seen kind of the growth in customer success really collaborating primarily with service and support over the last few years. You read this chart by seeing that over 50% of the respondents said that they were spending over 50% of their time working with service and support. And I think that aligns really well with what we saw just previously around the 75% who said that they were reactive, because that engagement was typically, handling support issues, tickets, helping to respond to customers as they come in and had requests. And that was primarily a lot of what we saw in the past with customer success. But over the past year, I think it's become really evident that customer success is working with many, many more teams and much more proactive engagement. So product management to kind of talk about requests and features for the roadmap, sales from an expansion standpoint, marketing for advocacy, and all across the board. Robin, I'm curious, when you look at our team as well as customer success organizations that are sort of customers you've worked with, what are you seeing around this collaboration point?
I agree. It's definitely growing. I think when you look at some smaller teams, things are more happening at the CSM team versus in partnership with them. So as we see that growth and maturity that we saw earlier in our slides, that's coming across here where marketing teams are now working with the CSMs and not just focusing on pre-sales, but also looking at post-sales and how can we partner together to help our customers be more engaged in the products and growing, right? Because CS means growth. So marketing is helping us with that piece of it. So I think that's probably the biggest thing I'm seeing and that our customers are seeing across the board.
Absolutely. And I think that's validated with what we saw in the data as well, which is that this last year, the biggest jump was the collaboration with marketing and sales. You can see that in the past, even just 2 years ago, only 9% of CS teams said they were spending 50% of their time with marketing. And now 44% of our respondents said that. And that could be anywhere from, just working with marketing on brand and customer communications and that type of style and content, to really partnering on advocacy, case studies, testimonials, references, to organizations like Tatango in a PLG or product growth model, who actually for us, we have a freemium and also free trial model, but we're working with customer success. We use Tatango as our system for monitoring all the activity in a pre-sales motion and evaluation mode, as well as driving all of the engagement. And we're working and provide with customer success to take those customer success best practices and apply them even in our kind of pre-sales engagement model with our customers in our BLG model. So that type of partnership we're seeing more and more of, which is driving kind of that collaboration happening. And I do think that also from a communication standpoint, that in many cases, the communication we're driving with Tatango through to our customers even better than what we're doing for marketing systems. The ability to not just provide really beautiful and designed campaigns, but be able to hyper-personalize, because we can see customers in our free trial and freemium motion coming in and their activity. We can take that product activity, look at their behavior, and provide very hyper-personalized experiences by these micro segments. And I think that demonstrates really kind of how customer success has expanded, not just to the post-sales journey, but also in terms of enabling the engagement pre-sales as well and throughout their customer journey, which I think is very exciting to see. And this is important because as we're seeing more people, one of the key things that we see jump in the last year as well is the focus of the customer success team on expansion and advocacy. In the past, I think customer success has really been focused on what we call kind of churn reduction, right? Protecting the customers, retaining the customers, renewing the customers, and delivering value. But it kind of stopped there. And now what we're seeing is that the recognition that as you're growing value, as you're delivering value, customers see that value and they're expanding their relationships. So they're taking that value and looking for new use cases for that value, whether it's different departments in an organization or different initiatives. And that expands the product engagement and the engagement in the organization. In addition, when customers see value and are growing value, they're also becoming advocates and providing referrals to other new customers, and really driving not just customer success for the organization, but really as a flywheel of growth for the company itself. And I think this is reflected in the revenue the kind of compensation model. So I think, Robin, if you can speak about how you're seeing that change.
Yep, definitely. I'm experiencing it myself. The trend for compensation structures for CS professionals being more reliant on revenue generating activities has continued in 2021. CS teams are becoming more responsible for hitting revenue targets, with 79% of our respondents reporting their teams were held responsible for reaching the targets. And this we're seeing is up over 30% from 2020. CS teams are being tasked with owning the generating activities that make an impact on organizations' bottom lines, as well as activities that improve product stickiness, like feature adoption and integrations. And this is where we're seeing additional partnership with the marketing team. And these activities are decreasing churn and increasing our renewals. And as a result, compensation structures have evolved to be more heavily focused on bonuses and other incentives like stock or equity. So moving away from that company performance has been a big thing. And we're seeing that here as I talk to my customers. I'm also hearing them talking more about health of a customer, as well as one of the things that they're measuring their teams on. It's not just the engagement model. And as CS teams grow and mature, and as business models adapt and change, the structure of the team is changing. Companies are now segmenting the business based on contract size or the company size. And there's also further segmentation by where the customer is in the journey. So when you think about your customers and how you want to look at them, how they are in onboarding is going to be very different within their first year of the contract and beyond. So lifecycle stage becomes an important part when we're structuring our teams. The old way was more about we grow within the office that we're in, right? We're all in San Francisco. And so it becomes much more of a round robin when we are adding accounts to our CSMs. So geography didn't really matter. But then as you grow your teams and you start to have a team in San Francisco and a team in New York and a team in Texas or in London, geography then becomes the king of where you want to allocate accounts to the CSMs. It makes much more sense. You're working within your time zone. But now we're seeing this additional of now looking more about the size of the account, the size of prize, in addition to the life cycle stage, and making sure we're aligning them correctly. So what's next? As we talked about in the poll earlier today, remote is still going to be a new normal. We are going to have some hybrid approaches out there where, maybe people are coming in once or twice a week. We're seeing a lot of hoteling and pre-signing up for their desks right now. And I don't think that's going to change too much. Technology is going to continue to be key in eliminating those silos, really having a data-driven decision across the entire customer journey.
So I think that, yes, definitely technology is super important here, especially being able to kind of, as you mentioned, kind of streamline the data-driven decisions. And we're seeing organizations now, as they have the technology and have that data, to be able to lean into automation. Automation is imperative for a scale. Obviously, as you're getting more and more customers, you want to make sure you're not creating friction in that process, that people are coming in, customers are coming, all these data signals are coming in, and you're putting in manual effort to kind of stop that and queue people in order to engage with them. That's not going to offer a great experience for the customer. So using automation to manage that flow and to really kind of set goals and automate against kind of data that you see of the customer behavior, and then kind of continue to monitor and iterate, I think is kind of the key for scale. Even organizations that aren't kind of, that scale is maybe not as big of a priority, I think it's super important also to use technology and automation in key areas, because that's just going to allow the customer success team to really focus on the tasks that are more problem solving and more creative in nature, and kind of relieve themselves of the manual and rote activities. This is, as we see customer success, as we mentioned, not just being about retention, but really around growth and business model for growth. Enabling your team to be able to focus on that will lead to, kind of customer outcomes and the business outcomes that we want to see. I think that is it for kind of what we wanted to share in this presentation. The research report obviously shares a lot more data and statistics around the kind of key areas we touched on today. So towards the end of this week, we will send an email out to everyone to let you know when that becomes available on our website. Well, thanks for everyone for participating. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.